Let's talk about task cards. Now, task cards are something that we all use inside of our classrooms. They come in little bits of information or questions, and these are typically revolved around a task. So you would have a number of them. You would have like 1 through 12 or 1 through 24, depending on how many task cards come within that set. Now, these are going to be printable items. These are sometimes even purchased like at stores like Lakeshore. And task cards are going to be something that's really easy to be able to implement because it provides your students with so much practice. However, I want us to look at task cards in a more creative, innovative, and collaborative way. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 different activities that you can be using with your task cards. Hey everyone, my name is Bridget Spackman. I am a staff developer in Central Pennsylvania where I support 25 school districts and also 30 nonprofit schools when it comes to literacy instruction, autism support, and also MTSS frameworks. But here on this channel, it is completely focused on upper elementary literacy instruction. So if you are looking to have a better understanding of your path for instruction, you need to have structures outlined inside of your classroom, then this channel is going to offer the support that you need. So subscribe and hit the like button for this video and also the notification bell so you can get notified when I upload a brand new video. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into task cards. Now, task cards are really common, but to be honest, and don't hate me, but I'm going to say that task cards are really just glorified worksheets because that's what they are. So the idea around a task card is that you would print a number of them. Typically they come in either 4 on a page or 2 on a page. You would cut those out and then each one would have a very specific task, question, or focus. And so students would answer, and again, it's all about providing them with as much practice as possible when it comes to whatever skill that you're working on. Now, from the teacher perspective, it's great because they're getting the practice that they need. And 2, you can offer in a little bit of movement. So typically how task cards have been utilized in the past is that you would print these out, you would post them around your classroom, you would give your kids a clipboard and the recording sheet, and then you would have them up and moving while also looking for and completing whatever it is on the task card. Now, this is great because it offers kids movement, right? It gets them out of their desks, it gets them talking with their peers if you want to make it more of a collaborative situation. But here's the thing, sometimes task cards can also be utilized in a really negative way. And one of those ways is where basically you're either sick or you need something for your students to be able to do. And so you print out this giant packet of like 4 or 2 task cards into one page. You staple them all together and you tell students to complete it either at a center or independently. And it really kind of defeats the purpose. Yes, they're still getting that task card, but if there's no engagement, if there's no collaboration, and there's no real feedback with it, then it's really not going to be as beneficial for the students. So I want to offer really a new perspective when it comes to utilizing those task cards in your classroom. But before I go into the 3 new strategies, here's what I want you to think about. What is it that really gets kids learning new concepts? And that's all about collaboration. It's about discussion. It's about being involved inside of their learning. And so task cards can be really great because they're quick, they're simple, they're easy, and it's really nice, especially if you're trying to scaffold that learning, to start with something so much smaller than moving into a giant book. And so you can kind of think of it as this like growing continuum of challenging kids when it comes to more complex text. So that task card would be kind of at the bottom of the barrel. And then as they grow and develop in those skills, you can really challenge them with other items, such as short stories, poetry, looking at chapters within a chapter book, going into picture books, anthologies. Any of those items can then allow students to be able to grow when it comes to the complexity. But we want them to have an understanding of that skill. So this is where the task cards come into play. And so you could take these task cards that I know you've bought them because I've bought a ton of them in my career. that now you can kind of repurpose them a little bit for different instructional uses. Now, if you're part of my Bridging Literacy community, I've shared a ton of task cards recently inside of the community that you can go and download, but I also give you more ideas. So if you are inside of my community, thank you so much for the support and the love, and I hope that we are supporting you along your journey of education and literacy instruction. And go and check out the Anchor activities to look for those task cards, and also 2 or 3 additional ways for how you can be utilizing those inside of your classroom. Okay, so we've talked about what task cards are. We've talked about how we have utilized them. And now we've kind of hit on a little bit that we want to make students really engaged. We want to provide them with that feedback. And we want to make things collaborative, because when things are collaborative, we learn the most. Think about any form of a meeting or a collaborative session that you have had in the past. Chances are, when you've had the opportunity to sit there and hash things out with another teacher next to you, you've really grown in whatever topic that you're focusing on. And we want to provide that same experience for our students. So, are you ready to hear the 3 different ways that you can be using these task cards inside of your classroom? All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the very first one. So the first one is to utilize it in whole group instruction. Now, one of the things that I was recently doing over the past couple years was really trying out task cards in my whole group. Now, I wanted to provide them with as much practice as possible. And when I look at my whole group instruction, I really think of it in this like gradual release model. And so I'm gonna model my thinking, I'm gonna have them help me with it. That's the we do part. And then I'm going to put them up in pairs or with groups, and then they're going to do it. That's the y'all do, because I'm from the South. And then I'm going to give them something to try independently all along the way, making sure that we're having discussions about it, that I'm really making sure that any misconceptions that they might be having, I'm clarifying that. And then I'm also providing them with that feedback. That meaningful feedback for, it's not just a, this isn't right. It's a, hey, I really want you to kind of look at it from this perspective, or here's kind of the strategy that I want you to be using whenever we're focusing on this specific skill. So what I have started doing is I would create slides. I know for those of you that have been here forever, you were like, wait a second, Bridget, you were using Google Slides. I started using Google Slides towards the end of my time inside of the classroom. And I have to say, it's not terrible. It really isn't. So I would start creating Google Slides, and on one of the slides, I would put up a task card. Now, yes, I still utilized authentic, meaningful literature when it came to my modeling, but I wanted to provide my students with additional practice, because this isn't I'm just going to show you what it looks like and now you're going to go off and try it on your own. That's not how scaffolded instruction, that gradual release model works. And so we really want to provide as many opportunities for that practice within the, I do, we do kind of realm. So this is where my task cards came into play, because they were short, quick, simple little activities that I can embed. And so I would post up a task card, and then I would have my students read it, or we would read it together. This is also a really great way to build in some of that fluency practice, which is huge. We need to build fluency, automaticity. And so by posting up these task cards and reading it together as a class, either chorally, by echoing, or by filling in the blank, which was one of my favorites, that as I read and I stopped at a word, the students would all kind of chorally say that word with me. Those are really great, simple strategies that you can do this as an entire group. So we would read the task cards together, and then I would have them kind of talk with me about how do we go through and identify the skill and strategy. It was great because, again, it's additional practice, but my students were really talking about it, having discussions. We would have partner talks about it. And so I was pulling all the stops when it came to engagement and instructional strategies that really benefit my students. Plus, again, it's very simple. You take a screenshot, you pop the screenshot in the Google Slides, and you're done, which makes planning your lessons that much easier. Okay, so the second strategy, and for this one, it's still staying within kind of that lesson whole group type of realm, but I want you to think of it not from the perspective of the I do, we do, but more of the y'all do. And so this can look a little bit different. This could be that everybody sat right in front of you as you're kind of teaching, you hand out the same task card to everybody, and they can turn with their elbow partner, knee to knee, and have a discussion about that task card and work collaboratively while you kind of bebop around. Or it could be one where you send them off, and this one was my favorite, that after you did some practicing, you would pair students up either in, a partner or no more than a group of 3, and you would send them off to be able to read. Now, here's the part that I really loved about it, is that I would really challenge my students when it came to identifying that skill and that strategy and utilizing either a graphic organizer, or I would have them create their own graphic organizer with a large construction paper. So you guys know which ones I'm talking about. It's like the 11 by 18. I think that's which one it is, but they're the really big ones. And so I loved using these for anchor charts, but I also loved using them for collaborative practice. So I would send students off, they would paste their task card onto their construction paper, and then they would organize that information in whatever way. And so obviously you're gonna have to teach kids how to do this. You're going to have to teach them about taking turns, about making sure that the spaces are big enough so that they're able to write in it. You're going to have discussions about agreeing and disagreeing and making sure that you're both on the same page before you start writing. This is something that we do have to teach kids how to do. So we're embedding those 21st century skills, those social skills, inside of the instruction that we're doing with our students, which is incredibly critical. So I would send them off, and then afterwards I would be bebopping around, making sure that my students were on task, making sure that the information that they were gathering together was correct, asking questions, all the things that teachers do when it comes to providing that feedback and engaging with their students. And then afterwards, we would put them either up in the hallway or students would present them to their class and have conversations about them. Now, for this one, you can either give them the same task card. So I do recommend that if you're just doing it like a super snappy, quick type of discussion, if you're doing it in whole group and you don't want them to move about your room, give them the same card. But if you're sending them off and they're going to spend like 15, 20-ish minutes on this activity, you can give them a different task card. So give them a different task card, and then when students are presenting and looking at the information, or if you're doing a gallery walk, you can have conversations about the information that they pulled and how they organized it depending on the skill that you're practicing in your whole group lesson. So the third and final way to utilize these task cards inside of your classroom is still going to stay within that instructional frame. However, we're going to pull this into small group instruction. Now, small group instruction is really meant to mirror the instruction that's happening in whole group, except you're adding a little bit of differentiation to your students. You're supporting them along this path of understanding the content, the grade level content that they're teaching within whole group. The moment you start to go down in your standards, you're no longer providing tier 1 small group instruction. Remember, small group instruction when it comes to what you're doing in tier 1 is just a strategy for supporting your students in the learning process. When you start to drop down in your standards and you're looking at different grade level standards, that's providing tier 2 instruction. So just wanted to clarify that just a little bit for you. So if you're utilizing small group as a way to help differentiate and support the instruction that you're doing whole group, you can use task cards yet again. And this is going to be pretty darn similar when it comes to sending them off for the, y'all do it together in a small group or a partner. You're going to do this at a small group. Now, again, they're short, sweet, simple, to the point. You don't want to have the instruction drag out over multiple days where it's taking them forever to get through one passage. We want to provide them with as much practice as possible. We don't want to draw it out. We want to give them quick, snappy, and to the point instructional practice time. So these are perfect for that. If you give your students each a task card, you're organizing that information together, you're highlighting, maybe you're looking for keywords, maybe you're underlining information, you're talking about different strategies that they could be using with that specific task card, but it's still the same thing that they were doing in whole group. They're just getting a double dose. When it comes to just instruction in general, students are going to need several touch points. And so those touch points is the practice from start to finish. And so for students who are average, typically it's about 7 to 10 touch points to really understand that content. But as soon as we start to look at students who have disabilities, that's going to mean like 40 to 50 touch points on top of what they're already doing. So they just need to have more. You're just going to overload them with as much practice as possible, because that's what's really going to help them be able to grow in that grade level content that you're delivering with them. So you're going to give this to them in small group. Again, you can have them do it together. You're going to do a lot of highlighting, circling, using some different strategies, but still going back to utilizing that graphic organizer, organizing the information that they have, and doing a little bit of writing practice. So it's a very simple and easy way. And if you purchase one set of task cards, there you go. You've got your entire lesson. You've got a practice for them to do. You've got a small group practice. And then here's a bonus. You can even have them do one task card independently to show that they've understood it. So now you have this beautiful continuum of providing your students with as much practice as possible without overwhelming them with really long, big stories. And then as students really start to develop this solid understanding of what this skill is, then you can start to challenge them a little bit more with much more complex text and looking at maybe those short stories, anthologies, or even some of those picture books. I hope that this was really helpful. Again, if you're in with the Bridging Literacy community, we've been adding task cards to the community so that you can go and check them out. They're very simple designs. They don't have a lot of fluff kind of added into them, and you can use them in so many different ways. And we provide more ideas for you there in the community of how you can be utilizing those task cards. Especially if you have a core program, you can still use these task cards to support that learning and break it down just a little bit more for your kids. When we break things down into those bite-sized, simple bits of information, that's when we're really making sure that we're giving them that explicit, targeted instruction. All right, guys, that is going to be it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Like this video, subscribe if you have not already, and I will catch you all next time. Bye.